Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good to be here. I'm Robert Buxton. I've been here before, and what I do is I play classical piano. At the end, I'll do some Southern gospel to close. Then I'll talk a bit about the music and what to listen for. But the very first thing I want to do is actually just improvise something for you because, well, that's what they did 100, 200 years ago or more. Classical pianists and composers, they were always improvising. So if I could get some help from you, could you give me some random notes, please? Just, if you don't read music, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, that's it. You can sharp them or flat. Okay, A, yeah? Couple more? G, and then F I heard also.
B flat.
Did you say E flat?
B flat.
Oh, B flat. How about that? Just dot, 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 D. Let's do that. How about the character? What character do you want my improvisation to have? Anything? A mood? Or just, yeah.
Little boy.
Little, what is it?
A little boy.
Oh, little boy. Okay, yeah, I have two, so I should know. So, yeah. Well, if I'll be really accurate, then it has to have a lot of energy, which I don't always have. So, I have a 4 and 6 year old, two boys, so they've got a lot of energy. And sometimes they can be very sweet and everything, and then they just get crazy and start, screaming and yelling. So I have to convey all that in this, right? Oh yeah, thank you. The doors, okay. So here are the notes. Here it is. Yeah.
I have five grandsons, and you just described everyone.
Really? Oh, thank you. It makes me happy to hear because when you're improvising, sometimes it's kind of like driving down I-85 to South Carolina. That's where I was yesterday, and you never know what's going to happen. So if you tell me that, then if it sounds like your grandchildren, then because you know what I was thinking, it needs to start very innocent. But then it gets not so innocent because you know how little kids are. They're very sweet and everything. And then they start getting into things. And you hear a loud thud and you think, uh-oh. Well, anyway, so I'm going to play the real program. What I'll do is I'll go about 45 minutes of maybe less even classical, and then we'll switch over to, I know a lot of people like gospel. I do too, but I want to play for you, I think last time I was here I played you the Ave Maria by Schubert arranged by Liszt, which is very famous. Everybody knows it. I won't play it today, I'm sorry, but it's a beautiful piece. But I have a story about that. My wife recently, she's a pianist and plays for a big church as a music pianist and organist there. Somebody asked her to play Ave Maria for a wedding. So she said, which one? Because there's more than one Ave Maria out there. And they said, look, don't get smart with us. We want Ave Maria. Well, so she played the Schubert, everybody was happy. But what I want to play for you is the Bach-Gounod Ave Maria. which has a great story to it. You know, Charles Gounod, French composer, he was hanging out with his father-in-law in the 1850s. And they were looking at Bach together. I love that, because if everybody looked at Bach's music with their in-laws, the world would be a better place, I think. So they were going over this prelude by Bach. It's very familiar, you know. And Gounod, speaking about improvising, he improvised a melody on top of that, which is... And this became Ave Maria. He later added words to it. His father-in-law actually helped him. He jotted it down as he was improvising. So, you know, yeah, he added this the Latin Hail Mary prayer as the text. But I don't sing, sorry. So this is an arrangement for piano by Georges Bizet, the guy who wrote Carmen. So think about it. It's really 4 people involved in the creation of this piece. It's Bach, it's Gounod, it's the father-in-law, and it's Bizet. So here is that Ave Maria, the Bach-Gounod. Thanks. You know, I love to do arrangements. You can be something you're not, like not a piano player. I can pretend to sing, to be a singer, and I don't sing very well at all. So now I'm going to play you Robert Schumann's Widmung, or Dedication. The text, if I were to sing it, is by Friedrich Ruckert. It's a German text, and this is arranged by Franz Liszt for solo piano. So this piece, it's a love song, just like Smoke Gets in Your Eyes is a love song. Schumann wrote it as a wedding gift for his wife, Clara, who, you know, she herself was a great musician. And their wedding, well, getting to the point that they could marry was quite difficult, because Clara's father was Schumann's piano teacher, and he did not approve of the marriage. Now, I think that one thing people didn't quite get at the time about Schumann, because I've read all these quotes that people thought he was crazy. He wasn't crazy, he had bipolar, which they didn't know much about in those days. So poor Schumann, he suffered terribly with this condition. And I think in some sense you can hear it in the music. Like, his music is never too complacent, it's never too settled or comfortable. It's always on the edge of something, whether it's a manic, exhilarating mood like this piece, or something very withdrawn and sad almost. They used to call bipolar manic depressive, so it makes sense. So this piece, I think it really depicts what it feels like physically to be in love, to have the adrenaline going through you, and even sometimes struggling to find the right words to say when you're talking to someone that you're in love with. It's like this, I don't know, it's almost manic actually. And you know, this part in the middle, to me, it sounds so much like butterflies in the stomach, which you might have when you're, you know, talking to someone you're in love with. So that's how I would describe this piece. Of course, with the Liszt arrangement, I read a quote about arrangements that I liked recently. It said, a lot of the times when you're playing an arrangement, it almost says more about the arranger musically than the original composer. In other words, what I'm going to play is just as much Liszt, if not more Liszt, than Schumann. It's the same thing when you read a book that's been translated from a different language into English. A good translator has to make it work in the language that they're translating to, and that might involve using some creative license, because otherwise you're just going to have Google Translate, and that's pretty dull. So here is Widmung, or Dedication, by Robert Schumann. Wrote it in 1840 as a wedding present for Clara, his wife. Thanks. I'm now going to play another Liszt arrangement, and this one is terrifying. It's terrifying because I just learned it, but it's terrifying because the subject matter is terrifying. And so this is a Schubert lead or vocal piece song, the Erlkönig. He wrote it as a young man, a teenager actually. He was only like 16 when he wrote it. In 1815, I think that's when he wrote it. So if I were to sing it, if I could sing, the text for the original piece is by Goethe. And there are 4 characters. There's a narrator who tells us what's going on. There's a father and a son, a young boy, speaking about young boys. And this is what's really terrifying, is the boy is very ill. And the father is taking him by horse carriage in the middle of the night through a storm in the forest to the doctor. And then there's this character, the Erlkönig, who's this supernatural figure, maybe a ghost or something, lives in the woods. And the whole song is sort of a dialogue between the father, the son, and the Erlkönig. Because the Erlkönig keeps telling, well, the boy says to his dad in German, mein Vater, he says, I hear this Erlkönig telling me to come to him, while they're racing through the forest. And the Erlkönig represents death. And the father keeps reassuring the son, no, you're imagining things, it's not real. Well, at the end of the song, the narrator tells us that the boy has died. So you can view this in many ways. They're, symbolically and everything. Well, first of all, in those days, infant mortality was much higher. Medicine was not as advanced. And, another thing is I think Schubert really understood this subject, because Schubert died at 31, and he was very ill much of his life. And of course, a text describing some supernatural figure trying to bring you to him, that just would make sense. He lived it. What this does is it really depicts the just like the Schumann sounds like being in love, really. This sounds like horse hooves and thunderstorm or something, the wind and the trees moving about. Like, you can just hear it from the beginning. It's and that goes pretty much throughout the piece, although at the end all that energy kind of subsides when the narrator tells us what happened to the boy. It actually ends kind of quietly, which is unusual. So this is Liszt's arrangement for solo piano. He played this at a lot of his early concerts, and it had a big effect because it's a thunderous piece, literally. We had some storms last night. I was thinking about this music last night when I was going to bed, because the thunder and lightning were going, and that's this piece, really. I probably should have drank more coffee today. It would help with the repeated notes, So this is famously difficult, even impossible to play. So good luck to all of us. Yeah. very, very intense and very dark. And I'll play you something that's a little more lighthearted because you can't be that dark all the time. This is a piece, this is a melancholy piece, but it has a lightness to it. This is the Intermezzo number 1 by Manuel Ponce. Does that name ring a bell? He's not played as much as I think he should be. He was a Mexican composer in the early 20th century. And what happened with him was, he went to Europe to study, like everybody did. Tried to be a European composer, but then when he came back to Mexico, he realized he didn't want to be a European composer. Wanted to be a Mexican composer, and so he would incorporate Mexican folk music. You're going to hear it in here. Just the beginning, it just sounds like it. It has that flavor to it. The same story happened with Aaron Copland, who was a composer from here, from the US. He was born in Queens, and he studied in Paris with Nadia Boulanger. But he came back to the States, and it was the Great Depression. And he gave up. He said, this is not working to try to write like a French composer or something. So he started writing things like Billy the Kid, Rodeo, and Appalachian Spring. You don't get more Americana than that. So here is Manuel Ponce, Intermezzo number 1. Another terrifying thing I'd like to try. I don't do this a whole lot, but you seem friendly. So, I'm going to play something I wrote. And I don't like to play what I wrote the same way. Maybe, have you ever heard your voice on a recording and think, that's really how I talk? That's kind of what it is playing something I wrote, what it feels like. So this is just called White Clouds. And the funny thing, I don't know how to talk about what I wrote except to say that usually what comes out when I write something in life, I'm sort of extroverted, I love to talk, and I enjoy playing loud pieces. But when I write music, it comes out very quiet and very slow, always. Go figure. My wife, when I play her compositions I've written, she'll say, it's so sad. I didn't know you were so sad. I said, I don't think it's sad, it's just peaceful. Oh, it sounds tragic to me. Well, I didn't think of it that way, and another thing with this piece, I like Renaissance and medieval music very much, and so maybe there's a part that sort of imitates a little bit. Like chants or motets sung a cappella music. I love it very much. So, because I think the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, they were not like perfect times to be alive. They didn't have air conditioning and a lot of other things. I wouldn't want to go back then, but there's something really fascinating about those times and the music from that time too. So anyway, here is the piece. I don't know if I'll remember how to play it, even though I wrote it, so. I don't think it's sad, but you tell me. I don't think it's sad. But that's the funny thing, you learn something when you write your own stuff. And that's that when you write something, it's a little bit like having kids, that you don't own them, you don't control them. In other words, when you write a piece, people are going to hear it very differently than what you imagine it to be. And that's okay, that's interesting. Just like if you have kids, they're their own people, and you can't control them what to do. So, and same with a piece of music. And that's why, we can play music from 200 years ago and it still works because we're interpreting it. And there are a million ways to interpret something. There's a violinist I love, Ivry Gitlis. He said, a piece of music that's really good, you can bend it quite a lot and it's not going to break. In other words, you can put a lot of your own. So anyway, I want to play you a chunk of Rachmaninoff's Paganini Rhapsody. This is for piano and orchestra, and I'm sorry, as you can see, I don't have an orchestra. So I've tried to smush it all into one piano part. And it's taking me a long time. It's taking me as long as Bucky's is taking to be built in Mebane, where I live. So this is a late work of Rachmaninoff. After he had left Russia, he wrote it. And you can hear some of his nostalgia. I mean, he was deeply homesick, even clinically depressed. He loved the States, and he loved being here, but he missed home. And I have a kind of an insight into this because my mother's a Russian immigrant. She's from Moscow, Russia, not Idaho, which I hear is beautiful, by the way. You know, to give you an idea of her nostalgia, she'll always cook the thickest, heaviest, hottest Russian stews in the middle of summer. My parents live 30 minutes away, in Chapel Hill from us. So she called me on July 4th and she said, I made borscht, you have to come eat. Have you ever had borscht before? You don't want to eat it when it's 100 degrees out. And I told her that, and she said, so what? It's just like home. Rachmaninoff had his house built as an exact replica of the house he lived in Russia, in this country, because that is the power of nostalgia. So a few things you're going to hear. This is based on Paganini's 24th Caprice, so you're going to hear that. You're also going to hear Russian church bells. He was a Russian Orthodox Christian, but the church excommunicated him because he married his cousin. But you hear those big cathedral bells like in a big basilica somewhere in Moscow or St. Petersburg. There's another thing you're going to hear, this melody, which is the Dies Irae chant from the Middle Ages, speaking of medieval Renaissance music. The Day of Wrath, and it is a menacing thing. He was obsessed with that in his later years, probably thinking about world events. This was 1935, and the Second World War was not too far off. That's what I think, at least. So here is a chunk from the beginning, variations 1 until, I don't know, I feel like I ought to stop. So here it is. Piano and orchestra sort of smushed together somehow. So it's kind of like if you go to a Waffle House, what do they say? Smothered, covered, and chunked. That's what I do. Sorry, I don't know if that analogy really worked, but whatever. That's not it. That's not the whole thing. So maybe when Bucky's is finished, I'll finish it. So that's about like 1/3 of it. Maybe next time I'll play you the next third, and then we can divide it up into nice little pieces. But I was gonna play a little gospel for you. So I think I told you my mother's a Russian immigrant. And if you've heard me tell this, maybe it's painfully not funny anymore, but my dad also is an immigrant from Southern Virginia. And so he raised me on gospel. And so I grew up playing that as well as all this classical stuff. So I'm gonna play you first, In My Heart There Rings a Melody. And whenever I play a gospel song, I always have some idea of how I wanna play it. Not so with this. I have no idea. Should it go slow, fast, this, that? So you know what you do when faced with a problem like that? Just do it all. So I just change tempos. I play slow, I play faster, and then at the end I go completely New Orleans in the style. It's just like debates about food. I always wonder about that. People debate Western or Eastern style barbecue, or I feel like I'm sounding like Andy Rooney now. You remember? Did you ever wonder? He always says, "Did you ever wonder why?" So the Thanksgiving is always a debate about do you do sweet potato pie or pumpkin pie, and people get very passionate about these things, one side or the other. My stance is yes, I'll have all of it. Thank you. And that's what I'm doing. Yes, give me a piece of pumpkin and sweet potato and both types of barbecue. Thank you very much. I'm happy with all of it. So here is a many different charactered version of In My Heart There Rings a Melody. Here it is. Speaking about, we're talking about grandkids, young kids. So my kids started singing This Little Light of Mine. And at first, my wife and I were sort of like, I don't know, the way they sang it, we were telling them, oh guys, what are you doing? But then we started listening, and it's such a wonderful song. I mean, it's such a great message and a great song, and it's one of the great spirituals. So I'm going to play a Southern gospel version of it. I think we were slightly annoyed because we didn't even realize what it was they were singing. And then we listened and said, oh, that's This Little Light of Mine. They picked it up somewhere. And it's just wonderful. By the way, people ask me, do your kids play piano? They said, we want to play anything but piano. Mom and Dad play piano. Trumpet. It's loud. That fits their characters, maybe. Someone said, don't tell them about the drums. So I think I won't. Great instrument, but if we want to get any rest, forget it. Here is This Little Light of Mine. Thank you, and I'll do one more to close. This is another old time gospel. This is a very old-timey like gospel song, On the Jericho Road. You ever heard that before? I don't think they sing it in the churches so much, and I think they should because it's just wonderful. So here it is. Thanks. Well, I guess we can wrap up there, unless you want more. I mean, I can keep going, but it's just about 4 o'clock, and probably you have other things to do. So, look, thank you very much for having me, and thanks. I don't know if she's still here now, but Denise is so wonderful, and I really enjoy, working with her. So, thanks to her too. So,
Thank you.
I'll see you later. Take care.